Coming up next on KPBS Evening Edition, Governor Jerry Brown says the state budget deficit will likely be larger than predicted. And UC San Diego settles with federal prosecutors over racial harassment charges. And a Camp Pendleton Marine goes back to court to try to save his job. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dwayne Brown. Joanne Farian is on vacation. The state budget shortfall may be larger than Governor Jerry Brown predicted. He says it will likely exceed the $9.2 billion he forecast earlier this year. Brown urged state lawmakers today to pass his proposed spending cuts, including additional rollbacks to social service programs. The state comptroller reported tax revenue last month was down more than 4%. Governor Brown is expected to release his revised budget proposal next month. A Camp Pendleton Marine facing ouster for criticizing President Obama on his Facebook page was back in federal court today, asking to halt his discharge proceeding. KPBS senior editor Mark Sauer is following the story and joins us from the News Center. Mark, what happened in court today?
Well, Sgt Gary Stein was asking Judge Marilyn Huff for a temporary restraining order against the Marines, but she denied his request. Last week, a three-member military panel unanimously recommended that Stein be kicked out of the Marines with a less than honorable discharge.
And so what happens from here?
Stein and his attorneys, including those from the ACLU, have vowed to appeal his case all the way to the Supreme Court. As it stands, his fate's in the hands of Brigadier General Daniel Yu, commanding officer of MCRD San Diego, on whether to take the panel's recommendation and expel Stein from the Corps.
KPBS senior editor Mark Sauer. Another Marine is under fire tonight for a statement he made on Twitter. The Marine Corps Times says a staff sergeant from 29 Palms sent out a tweet about being on the rifle range and shooting black all day like George Zimmerman. Of course, Zimmerman is charged with second-degree murder in the shooting of a black teenager in Florida. The Marines use black targets on their rifle ranges. The Times says Sergeant Sunil Mehta told them he hadn't been following the Zimmerman case, and he apologized for a statement saying he is not a racist. He's also deleted his Twitter and MySpace accounts. The University of California, San Diego closed a turbulent chapter in the school's history today. It centers around a series of racial incidents on campus about 2 years ago and a Justice Department investigation. KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert joins us from the News Center. Kyla, remind us what prompted the investigation by the Justice and Education Departments.
Well, as I'm sure you remember, the first event was a February 2010 off-campus fraternity party that was called the Compton Cookout. And they encouraged people attending the party to dress up as African-American stereotypes to mock Black History Month. That alone prompted national condemnation and protests on campus. In the next couple of weeks, there were nooses found hanging in the school's main library, as well as a Ku Klux Klan-style hood put on a prominent statue on the campus. And so those events and other claims of harassment and discrimination filed against the university are what prompted the investigation.
And so what did UCSD voluntarily agree to do in this statement? Or settlement, rather.
The school agreed to several policy and procedure changes. They also committed to new trainings and outreach programs. And in a statement issued today, the university said that a lot of those changes have already been put in place. They've established an office for the prevention of harassment and discrimination, and they've also started training programs and outreach programs that are focused on increasing the diversity of the school's applicant pool.
KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert. Civic leaders in City Heights want to take back Peralta Park from gangs and drug dealers, and one way they're doing it is by staging family-friendly movie nights. The story is part of our Speak City Heights project, and it's brought to us by Brian Myers of the Media Arts Center.
So I heard about the event online, and I thought it was a nice way to kind of just come out on a Friday night, enjoy the weather. It's a little chilly, but just kind of get together with different families, feel safe outside in the environment, just watch a good film, kind of hang out.
The City Heights Business Association decided last year that we were going to focus on addressing safety and security issues within the business district and all adjacent areas. And we felt that one way to do that was to target the local parks. especially for the families that live around those parks. And it has worked. We pay for private security throughout the business district, but we have them also come through the parks and patrol the parks. I think that if you look at City Heights the way it used to be 10 years ago compared to the way it is now, it's a lot safer. So, you know, we've invested a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort. And the result of that is that you see kids playing in the park, feeling safe, and more of a willingness of people to take ownership. And that's what we want people to do in the community, is to take ownership of these parks, because it's their parks. It doesn't belong to the gangs, it doesn't belong to the drug dealers, it belongs to the families that live here.
That story from Brian Myers of Media Arts Center. We have more about family-friendly movies at Peralta Park on our website, kpbs.org. Water wars and the fight for a San Diego County supervisor seat. We'll have a look at those stories in just a moment. Plus, the deconstruction of a drag queen. It's the latest production from a theater group called Circle Circle ... A look at what it takes to find your inner diva in a few minutes. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS. At 8, PBS's longest-running public affairs series, featuring Washington's top journalists analyzing the week's news and its effect on the lives of all Americans. Washington Week. Then at 8:30, documentary-style field reports, short features, and interviews, plus an engaged audience. On Need to Know. And at 9 on Back-to-Back Envision San Diego specials, America's Healthcare System, and California Inmates. That's tonight on KPBS.
They're symbols of the British monarchy. Grand buildings that have stood for centuries. Host Fiona Bruce tours the greatest royal places in England, uncovering incredible stories along the way. Secret passageways under Windsor Castle, the bombing of Buckingham Palace, why Queen Victoria relocated this grand marble arch. It's an amazing journey through the Queen's Palaces.
Tour the Queen's Palaces, Monday at 9 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
San Diego's major water supplier agreed this week to raise water rates for customers, and 3 candidates vying for a rare opening on the County Board of Supervisors went at each other in their first debate. UT San Diego reporter Mike Lee has been following the water story, and UT's Chris Catalogo has been covering the race for District 3 on the Board of Supervisors. Well, guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, let's start with you. Remind us why the Metropolitan Water District in Los Angeles is raising water rates in San Diego County.
Well, MET, as it's called, or MWD, is the big wholesaler for all of Southern California. They provide water to 19 million residents because they have contracts to get it from Northern California and the Colorado River. And we buy just a little bit less than half of our water in this county from them. So Metropolitan said some months back that they needed to raise rates to keep up their current level of service, to maintain the programs that we use here in the region, and they said it was time to raise the rates.
And so they voted and approved to raise rates by 5% next year and in 2014, right?
Exactly.
You kind of alluded to it, but what reasons did they give?
Well, the overarching reason was that they said that they needed to maintain the same level of service. And what that means is things like water conservation programs, fixing and maintaining aqueducts that bring water in from the Colorado River and elsewhere. If you listen to local water district officials, though, they have some suspicions. They say that really what MET is doing is they're increasing travel expenses. They're not cutting employee expenses enough, and that's really what's behind the water rate increases.
So less to do with the delivery of water, but more with the administrative costs?
Yes, that's the stance that the San Diego County Water Authority has taken, and the authority asked Metropolitan to cap rate increases at 3% each of the next 2 years. That proposal didn't float, so to speak, in Los Angeles earlier this week. Instead, the Metropolitan Board, which includes representatives from across 6 counties, decided to go with the 5% increases that you talked about.
Mm-hmm. And we know, living here in San Diego for quite a while, that this water issue, or the debate between the County Water Authority and MWD, isn't new, but the county says they are overcharging customers. That's their assertion. Does the county have a case here?
Well, the county does have a case in a very literal sense. The County Water Authority has sued Metropolitan in federal district court in San Francisco based on this allegation that Metropolitan has unfairly divided its charges in a way that forces San Diego customers to essentially subsidize the rest of Southern California. Now, you can imagine Metropolitan and the agencies north of the county line here refute that and say, no, it's actually the other way around, so to speak. In fact, they say San Diego is paying too much for water from other sources, and they're trying to kind of shed the blame and get other agencies to pick up that tab.
Yeah, some of this bad relations actually goes back to the early 90s between the two agencies. But right now it seems like more of a PR water war, if you would.
Oh, it certainly is. The County Water Authority maybe 6-8 weeks ago really ratcheted up the rhetoric. They launched a website called The Truth About MWD, in which they've had Facebook posts and other kind of social media kind of attacks on MWD. All around the lawsuit issues, but it's really aimed at kind of riling up residents here against Met.
Mm-hmm. Is this kind of like biting the hand that feeds you? I mean, MWB is the major water supplier for us, right?
It's a great question, and it's one that I think will have some long-term consequences for San Diego, Dwayne, because right now it's pretty clear that all the other 5 counties served by Met are kind of solidly against San Diego and will probably at this point take great joy in whatever ways they can stick it to San Diego, because San Diego has kind of been very vocal and very critical, and I guess it has yet to be seen whether the county's allegations warrant that kind of criticism.
Yeah. We'll leave it right there, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks. For the first time in 20 years, a seat on the County Board of Supervisors is vacant, but only 3 candidates with funding have filed for the open seat. Chris Catalago has been following this. Chris, why the apparent lack of interest in this race?
Well, I think it's kind of a little-known office. You know, not many people know who their county supervisor is. Many know who their city council person is, for instance. And I think, you know, part of the reason for that is because you have a 5-member board of supervisors that served together for the last 2 decades. So there hasn't been a lot of competitive races in that time. You know, that they've had a sort of a kind of a lock on those seats, and there are several reasons why they have, but one of it is money, and another is, you know, they're all Republicans. The county has changed quite a bit in voter registration since those 5 were elected going back to '95.
That's right, a Republican board for quite some time. Now, all the 3 candidates vying for this seat have political backgrounds. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about them and what distinguishes them from each other.
Carl Hilliard is the mayor of Del Mar. He's a Republican. He sold his telecom company to Sprint a few years ago before running for office in Del Mar, and he got in the race a little bit later. Then you have a Democrat, Dave Roberts, who's the city councilman from Solana Beach. He also got in the race a little bit later. He's endorsed by the incumbent Republican Pam Slater-Price, which has kind of added some intrigue to the race. And there's Republican Steve Dannon, who has been running for about 2.5–3 years now for this office. He's the chief of staff to Brian Bilbray, and he is kind of really gone after this seat for quite some time. So we'll see kind of how it shapes out now that he has some competition.
And correct me if my memory serves me, Leon Williams was the last Democrat?
I believe so, yeah. He served in District 4, which is now Ron Roberts' seat. And, you know, Dave Roberts is really putting on a real campaign, you can say. You know, he's raised about $175,000, $90,000 of his own money. So we know he has money to run that race. And, you know, he does have the incumbent, even though he is a Democrat. So
right. And I want to talk about that in just a moment. They had their first public debate this week, right?
Yeah.
How did that go? Was there some sparring involved in this?
There was definitely some sparring from the Steve Bannon Republican side of things. You know, he really kind of went after his opponents for supporting various tax increases in their cities. Some of them were to raise bed taxes on hotels, which don't, you know, some people think don't really directly involve residents of that city, but they still are a tax increase. And there was some discussion, debate over a Charger stadium in the city of San Diego. Two county supervisors have been meeting for quite some time with Mayor Jerry Sanders over how involved the county might be in that discussion, how much money they might contribute.
Yeah, because that has been primarily a city issue, right?
Yeah, the city and the team have been kind of the often quoted parties in that story. But the county is really important given the amount of money it has. It has some very healthy reserves, and it obviously represents, you know, that Board of Supervisors represents, you know, over 3 million people. So I think they want the county to be a player in that discussion.
Yeah, you mentioned Dave Roberts, the lone Democrat in this field. He's deputy mayor of Solana Beach. I mean, he's a Democrat. Will that be an advantage or a disadvantage for him?
I think it really depends on who you ask. You know, I don't know that he would really change the dynamic of the board because you'd still have, you know, most likely 4 Republicans. Dave Roberts is a fairly fiscally conservative when it comes to his philosophies. Kind of on the social issues, he would be more of a traditional Democrat. He's adopted 5 children of his own. He and his partner from the county's county child services, and you know, he's talked a lot about how, you know, there's a backlog of, you know, 3,000 children really waiting to be adopted. And I think, you know, that's part of his passion. He's also passionate about the arts community, and then you have kind of on the other side the traditional Republicans.
Right. And Roberts also has the backing of Pam Slater Price. We're going to have to leave it there, guys. Chris, Mike, thank you.
Indeed. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, veteran Indiana Senator Dick Lugar fights off a primary challenge, plus Shields and Brooks. That's Friday on the PBS NewsHour.
Hi, I'm Yul Kwan from the new PBS series, America Revealed. Make Wednesdays your destination for exploration. First, on nature, experience life on the Salmon River. Next, Nova investigates infamous cruise ship disasters. Then, join me for America Revealed and see what it takes to keep 300 million Americans moving every day. This Wednesday, PBS is your destination for exploration.
The American people have named PBS the most trusted source of news and public affairs
for the 8th year in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. We've gotten a lot of reaction to our interview with Congressman and San Diego mayoral candidate Bob Filner. Last night, we brought you an investigative news source fact check of Filner's statements about the Port of San Diego. It revealed some inconsistencies, and we asked him to address that. After the broadcast, we got this email from Nancy Weber, who asks, could you possibly be more obtuse? Representative Filner repeated 4 times he had misstated the actual data concerning the port, but instead of allowing him to explain his idea of expanding the port to create more jobs, all you did was insist on browbeating him about his error. I thought I was watching Fox News, asking him to respond to a right-wing tweet. Really? Shouldn't the focus be on the issues and his positions and not playing gotcha? On the other hand, there was this email from Gregret, who wrote, Bob is lacking accuracy in his claims of the port's potential. As has come up in the past decades, he does not, nor does anyone, question the following critical items. We are a shallow water port. Our best cargo so far is vehicle transport ships. The railway connection east is still broken. Everything east must go north first. The future trucking capacity of our freeway system is taxed already. He speaks of a mega port potential without being questioned about or mentioning these points himself. We must move cargo in the most efficient manner after it leaves the ship or is loaded on it. Of course, you can join the conversation by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and of course you can email us. San Diego theater company Circle Circle ... is producing its third play in less than 2 years. It receives far less press than veteran companies like the Globe and the Playhouse, but KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando says with its latest production it finds its inner diva.
Circle Circle ... calls itself community-based theater.
Community-based theater comes from the practice of going out into the community and finding different interesting stories to turn into a play.
Artistic director Catherine Haroff founded the small company in 2010 and writes an original play for each new production. For Deconstruction of a Drag Queen, she found her story in Anthony Diaz.
She went out into the gay community, the drag community, and she wrote a play about that, and I happen to be one of those characters.
27-year-old Diaz says the play's about him finding the courage to become Grace Towers.
Hello, I am Grace Towers, and we are the opening night of Deconstruction of a Drag Queen, put on by Circle Circle ...
For my kind of drag, I like the drama. I like the over-the-top. If I can wear 4 lashes, I'll wear 4 lashes, just so you can see me from, around the block.
Diaz is trying to pass on that sense of drama to actor Sean Twisen.
I am playing Michael, who is based off of Anthony Diaz, and his drag character is Sunny Peaks, based off of Grace Towers.
There was some hesitation when I was first thinking about potentially putting my life on stage this way with Katie.
Hesitation because Diaz had a difficult relationship with his mother.
And you sort of see him exploring ways to express himself, and in the play you see his mother holding him back from being his true self.
What if I want to dance and be on stage? What if I like fashion and clothes and I'm good in school? Why can't I be all of that?
You understand me? No son of mine in my home ever.
This specific show, it has a little bit of a political agenda and a little bit of a social spin on it, which is acceptance and tolerance.
Diaz would find that acceptance and tolerance within the drag community, and the play pays tribute to those flamboyant divas.
I am the Duchess Honey Mustard, yeah!
Well, I have always had a big heart for the drag community. I love a good drag show.
This is the story of the birth of a true star. This is the deconstruction of a drag queen.
Backstage at 10th Avenue Theater, Diaz does some deconstructing of his own as he explains what it takes to turn actors into divas.
We have to make them look feminine, so rounding out the face, creating the eye makeup, the eyelid, contouring the cheeks, creating lips, the contouring of the nose, all creating shadows. Smoke and mirrors, as I say.
Takes me at least 2 hours to get ready.
Amateurs.
Shut up, Utopia. You hardly wear any makeup.
Not all of us need as much as you do.
One thing Diaz provides for the actors are hips.
New hips sponsored by Lazy Boy. Well, just the same with the makeup. You're creating an illusion, and boys don't have hips like girls do. So we create hips out of foam, and I'm giving all my tricks away. All my secrets.
Getting people to reveal their secrets is what Catherine Haroff is good at. In the company's previous show, Ragnarok, she uncovered the fantasy world of live-action role-playing, or LARPing.
Every show's different, what it needs. With the LARPing play, we had to make foam weapons that were sturdy and they worked well and were believable to the community. And with this, it was really about making sure that our queens looked like queens.
And queens don't shop at Ross.
We kind of had to reach out and see if there was any hand-me-downs that we could use, because
Dresses for men are expensive.
She confesses that with gowns, stilettos, jewelry, and makeup, they went way over budget.
Because we are going to have the community come and sit and watch this.
The drag community showed its support last weekend at the play's opening night. Heroff says people like Fernando Lara, who performs as Fifi at Lips, has expressed appreciation for the way the play finds the humanity beneath the glitter.
He said that a lot of times drag queens are seen as clowns or strippers, and that the art of it is really lost.
It's not just putting on a wig. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of creating the illusion. There's a lot of creating the performance. And just like any other art form, we're passionate about it.
Kevin Lamar Coleman conveys both the passion and the art of illusion in his performance as Utopia.
So if I could inspire somebody to do it, bring out the diva within, then I'd be happy.
And that's kind of the point, that you come and you learn about something that's different or scary or something that you would otherwise not want to know anything about, and you can see yourself in it and you can connect with it.
My heart is so full right now. It really is. And it's so amazing to have so many passionate artists behind this project, and it really means a lot.
That was KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando. Deconstruction of a Drag Queen runs through April 21st at the 10th Avenue Theater in downtown San Diego. Governor Jerry Brown says California's budget shortfall could be even bigger than predicted. He's telling state lawmakers to man up and pass the spending cuts he proposed in January. Legislators are waiting for his revised budget next month. And a Camp Pendleton Marine has lost his latest bid to stay in the military. Sgt Gary Stein faces an other than honorable discharge for criticizing President Obama on Facebook. The case has raised questions about the Pentagon's policies regarding social media and what active duty personnel can say. While discharge proceedings have already begun, a general still has to make the final decision about Stein's fate. And UC San Diego has agreed to steps aimed at stopping racial harassment on campus. The school is opening a new office to handle harassment complaints and requiring training for students and staff. The federal government demanded changes after nooses and a Ku Klux Klan type hood was found on campus a couple of years ago, and students at an off-campus party dressed in costumes mocking Black History Month. You can comment on any of the stories you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Hope you have a great weekend. We leave you with a look at a wet forecast.